All right, so I was cooking earlier. I was cooking some of Nessmuck's punky dope for to kind of fend off some of the vampire mosquitoes that we have around here, and the ticks, all the parasites we have around here. So a lot of the same stuff. This is another video I was wanting to do that my wife sourced the ingredients for me. But another thing that I want to make is I want to make a batch of fixin' wax. So my wife sourced all the ingredients. I think she got almost everything off of Amazon. Everything, when possible, is organic and natural. But fixin' wax has a ton of different uses. Its main use that I want it for is to protect my leather, to protect my carbon steel, especially being here on the coast. But anybody that knows me knows that I'm a fan of carbon steel, but you do have to protect that because it's not exactly corrosion resistant. As well as all my wood stuff, like my axe handles, tomahawk handles, knife handles, things like that. But fixin' wax isn't just used for that. You can also use it for medicinally. You can use it, for your cuticles, dry cracked hands, especially in cold weather, chapped lips, things like that. You could wax your bow with it. You could wax your bow string with it. It's just an all-around great wax that's been used for centuries. The best I can tell, it goes all the way back to the Egyptians, but I can't really figure out exactly who started it or what to give you that information. Traditional fixin' wax is a beeswax and a tallow recipe, which I'm waiting on sourcing some tallow. I'm going to do that in a future video. This is actually a recipe that I found on bushcraftusa.com in one of the forums when I was researching this fixin' wax. And this particular recipe came from Medic 317. So if by chance you're watching this, Medic 317, this is your recipe that I'm using here. And if anybody knows him, let him know. Him or her, I guess I should say. Or they. But anyway, Medic 317's recipe. Someone else in that thread had said they had found it on YouTube. I searched YouTube trying to figure out the original source of this. Maybe where Medic 317 got it, but I couldn't find it. So, long story short, it's not my recipe, and I got this personally from Medic 317 on Bushcraft USA. So, let's talk about the ingredients real quick. You need 10 ounces of cocoa butter, and I'll put these in the description, but you need 10 ounces of cocoa butter, 8 ounces of beeswax, 3 ounces of shea butter. This is coconut oil. You need a 1/4 cup of coconut oil. You need a 1/4 cup plus 2 teaspoons of olive oil. And then at the end, you need about 10 drops of peppermint oil, which I think would make it quite nice. So what else do I have? Of course, measuring cups. Then I've got some wax paper so that I can line my tins that I'm going to fill this with to make little fixin' wax cakes, basically. So that's what I've got going on here. And then of course, because I'm melting waxes, anytime I'm heating waxes or oils, I always use a double boiler concept. Garage door is always open. For ventilation, just always think safety. Wear safety glasses if you want. I don't personally want to, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't if you feel like you need to. But anyway, actually I'm going to start heating my wax, and while that's heating, I'm going to start making my molds. So give me a little bit. This is a pound of beeswax. I only need 8 ounces, so I'm going to use that. And this I'll use, for something else. Beeswax is great stuff. But I like to carve the beeswax, into smaller chunks, just because it melts faster. Look at that feather sticking. It's beautiful. It's really hot down here, even in the garage with the garage door open. So the beeswax is nice and soft, which is nice for cutting. And I'm using my Mora Companion to cut it with. Like I said, I'm on the coast, and beeswax is actually a really good preservative for, sorry, the garage door's open, you're going to hear cars. This isn't something you do in the woods. But I'm using my Mora Companion, which is a carbon steel blade like I like. And beeswax is actually a great protectant for your carbon steel. So I'm accomplishing two things at once here. I'm carving up my beeswax, but I'm also coating the blade to protect it. This particular brand of beeswax is really nice. This is Beeswax Yellow Beeswax Bar, 100% natural. Yeah, cosmetic grade, premium quality. This is a really, really good beeswax. I like the texture of it and the consistency. And I love the smell of beeswax anyway. But if you're wondering what brand I'm using, doesn't matter, I don't think, what brand you're using. Just that's the particular one that my wife sourced, and my wife researches all that kind of stuff. So I know it's good based on her research. All right. So I got my beeswax cut. I'm going to get my double boiler going. I feel like I'm on a cooking show. I'm going to get my double boiler going. I'm going to start melting that beeswax so I've got room to put the rest of my ingredients in. There we go. I've got my 8 ounces of beeswax. Now I get my double boiler going. Set my pan inside there. All right, so basically while this is, let me turn this down a little bit so you can hear. Now, while this is going down, what I want to do is add the rest of my ingredients except for my pennyroyal oil. I'm going to save that for last. So I've got my 8 ounces of beeswax. I need 10 ounces of cocoa butter. 1 ounce is 2 tablespoons. So I need 10 ounces, I need 20 tablespoons of cocoa butter. That's probably most of this container, I bet. Cocoa butter. That may be a challenge to get out. Let's see, this is 16 ounces. I need 10 of that. I'm gonna go warm that up. I'll be right back. So, had some camera trouble, but we're back online now. But you can see I've got my beeswax melting in the double boiler. My cocoa butter is right there in the middle. You missed me putting the cocoa butter in. Like I said, it's 10 ounces of cocoa butter, which is equivalent to, 20 tablespoons. So we're back up and running now. What I want to do now is throw in my next ingredient. I need 3 ounces of shea butter, which is roughly 6 tablespoons of shea butter. And hopefully this comes out a lot easier than the cocoa butter did. Yeah, that looks nice. There's 1, 2, 3. So this is where this differs from one of those cooking shows, since I'm not a chef. They'd probably be like, and have it all done by now. 5. And 6. So I got my shea butter in. I need a 1/4 cup of coconut oil. I'll get that in there. Quarter cup of coconut oil. I need a 1/4 cup plus 2 teaspoons of olive oil. There's my 1/4 cup plus 2 teaspoons of olive oil. There we go. So I've got all my ingredients in here, and all I'm going to do is melt those all together. I think we're all right there. Let that melt for a while. I'm going to start setting up my molds. For molds, I've got a couple different kinds. So I've got some old snooze cans, and I've got some screw top tins that I usually keep tinder in, but I thought this would be a good thing to put in there. I'm going to line the bottom of these tins with wax paper so that when I pour them into the molds, it doesn't stick to the mold. Alright, so all my waxes and oils are melting together right now. I'm going to wait till that all melts down, give it a good stir, then I'll add my, my peppermint oil. Alright, all my wax is melted, which is what I've been waiting on. And give it a good stir to make sure that all the oils and waxes blend together the best I can. Alright. Then the last ingredient is whatever essential oil you want to flavor it, because like I said, this can be used as a chapstick. I'm going to use peppermint oil, and that's going to take about 40 drops, which may be a challenge since this isn't a dropper, but I'm going to guesstimate. That's 40, plus a little extra. Anyway, so now that that's in there, give it one more stir. It'll be almost time to pour. Let that simmer together for a little while. Alright, so remember this is going to be hot. So I'm going to use a set of pliers because I can't find my pot holder. Hold on to that dude good. I'm just going to pour it into the mold. Now this will probably be messy, I'm guessing. Looks like our wax is solidified in the mold, so that's good. Let's pop one of these and see what it looks like. And some nice cakes. Pretty good. Needs a little more time to get solidified, but that gives us the idea. Alright, so what I want to do is I'm going to take all that excess that fell out. I can put that back in my pot. Use that another day. Anyway, this stuff is great for your hands. I'm going to rub that in. Let's see how this does. This is a pretty old sheath. Let's see how this does for that. Take some of that and rub it in. Since I got so much extra here. But like I was saying, you know, aside from using it for your hands, for your cuticles, for chapped lips, you know, if your hands get cracked, the main reason I wanted it for was, you know, to protect the leather, kind of nourish my leather. So this old sheath is a good example. And look how nice that looks. Nice and nourished. One of the main things that I wanted to make this fixing wax for, you know, was to protect. The main thing I wanted it for was, you know, to protect the wood on my handles for my axes, protect my leather, and protect my carbon steel to keep it from corroding. So what I'm going to do is, since I've got this extra here, most of it I can put right back in the pot, and when I make some more, get some more containers, I can melt that back down and pour it in. But just for an example of, you know, you can kind of see, you know, this leather is getting a little bit dry. This isn't that dry, but the steel needs to be protected and the wood handle needs to be protected. So I'll use some of this extra here. And I'm just going to work it into the handle, work it into the leather. Stuff works great on this leather. That's going to protect that leather. It's going to nourish it. Of course, the leather on the sheath. Yeah. That stuff is great on that leather. Alright, and then I can also use it on the steel to protect the steel from corrosion. Be real careful not to cut yourself. Yeah, that puts a nice thin coat. What I can do is take a rag and wipe off any excess, which I'll do in a little bit. So So, you know, all my wood, all my leather, all my carbon steel, it'll keep that protected and make my tools last a lot longer. I'll get a rag and get that excess off. And that leather sheath. So yeah, that is fix and wax. Like I said, it's you know, traces back centuries. I can't really pin down exactly where the origin of it was, but I've read, you know, that it was used back in ancient Egypt as well. So the main reason I wanted it for was to protect my wood on all of my tools, protect my carbon steel, and protect my leather for all of my tools. But, you know, also when I'm up in the Northeast, dry, cracked hands, it works great for that. My hands are like butter right now. Good for your cuticles, and works great as like a lip balm. You can use it to wax your bow. You can use it to wax your bow string. Just tons of different uses, not only for your tools, but also, you know, kind of medicinally in a sense. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. I will post the recipe in detail in the description box. Also in the description box, you'll find links to all my social media. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel and follow us on any of the social media that you like to use. And if you have any questions, comment below. Thanks a lot for watching.